Anytime you're dealing with two-point perspective in an architectural setting, you will be looking at the space. So here's a 90-degree angle. Say we're inside of a room, and here you are looking down, nose, shoulders, knees, toes, picture plane. You're looking at the corner. You're not parallel, perpendicular anymore. It's anything but parallel and perpendicular to the architectural space. That becomes two-point perspective. You still have a horizon line, and it is still, just like in one-point perspective, the distance between the floor and your eye level, and the eye level and the ceiling. But you no longer have a central vertical axis, rather, you have two vanishing points on the left of your periphery and on the right side of your periphery that exist on the horizon line. I'm going to grab another sheet of paper really quick. Going to be some heavy editing going on this drawing, this video, tomorrow morning, maybe late tonight. So in two-point perspective, you still have to deal with X lines. We're going to call those ones green, X, and Y, which will be blue, and Z. So we have in the one-point perspective model, all of our Y lines are vertical. And in the two-point perspective model, all of our Y lines are vertical. In the one-point perspective model, all of our X lines are horizontal. In the two-point perspective model, all of our X lines are diagonal. In the one-point perspective model, our Z lines are diagonal. And in the two-point perspective model, our Z lines are also diagonal, but they're reversed from what our X lines would do. So if you have a horizon line, in one-point perspective, of course, your situation is going to be like this. With a vanishing point here, and all of your Z lines are coming off like this. In two-point perspective, suddenly it becomes more like this. You have a corner, you have a Z vanishing point, and you have an X vanishing point, and then all of your Z lines do this. All of your X lines do this, more or less, connecting down to the vanishing point and out for an inside corner. So it's like we've turned that corner. If instead of an inside corner you had, say, a projecting corner, here's your horizon line. You have a vanishing point here, and a vanishing point here, and then you have a corner here. So we have a tower. Like that. So the Y's remain vertical in 2-point perspective, and then your X's and your Z's always go to the vanishing point. The only time they would be horizontal is if for some reason they lined up with a horizon line, which clearly connects to the vanishing point. What if there was a sidewalk here, for instance? Curb. Okay, so that's very simple rules of 2-point perspective. If you have a diagonal line that doesn't connect to these two vanishing points, then you're not keeping the rules. And of course, the vertical lines need to remain parallel. So with this 2-point perspective model, we're going to select a horizon line. Just like with 1-point perspective, we're going to use a ruler. Move some stuff off here. Cut all that stuff out. Okay. And I don't want to have the horizon line going right halfway through, so I'm going to measure down from the top. I have 18 inches total, so I'm going to come to about 10 and a half, maybe 10 inches. That's not halfway. 10 inches on both sides there. We'll create the horizon line and draw it lightly in. Label horizon line. On this horizon line, we're going to have 2 vanishing points. We'll put them on the extreme edges, not right at the edge of the paper, but close enough. We'll bring it in, say, about 1.5 inches from the left and 1.5 inches from the right. So here's my right vanishing point, RVP, and the left vanishing point, or LVP. We're going to create an interior space. So for this drawing, and then I'll do another drawing where we'll create an exterior space. And you can choose which one you want to do, interior or exterior. For an interior space, you're going to have a corner represented by a vertical line or a y-axis line. And let's go ahead and put that corner, how about at 14 inches? Not quite halfway through. This is a 24-inch piece of paper. I'm measuring 14 inches there along the horizon line. We'll do the same thing here at the top to stretch those reference points across. And we'll make that 14-inch line fairly short. And go about 3.5 inches. More of that line is above the horizon line, less below, just like more of the paper is above the horizon line and less below. So you want to have that same proportion reflected here on that line. We can examine our XYZ. We have a Y line with 2 points. And each of those points needs to connect to vanishing points on the left and the right. How about we call our left our X vanishing point and the right our Z vanishing point. These will take care of all horizontal lines in the two-point perspective model. Each horizontal line becomes a diagonal line going either X or Z vanishing points. So what I'm going to do is connect to the vanishing point on the left side are X lines. They will come to this point that's the bottom of my Y line, the corner of the room, and then we will come out. And we'll do the same with this point here, connecting to the X vanishing point on the left here. I'm just going to draw from here out, and that becomes our right wall. So on an interior wall, the left vanishing point controls the right wall. So now we're going to take care of the left wall, connecting to the vanishing point, connecting to the bottom of the Y line, and drawing out. And we'll do the same thing for the top. This is where the wall meets the ceiling on the left side. And draw that out. So you have a very simple room at this point where you have the floor, the left wall, the right wall, and the ceiling. So now what we're going to do is add some features to the room. We want to treat each one of these planes. You have 5 planes, the ceiling, the floor, and each side wall. So let's put some simple things in here. How about let's start with just the floor. What if there's tile on the floor, a simple checkerboard pattern? What you would have to figure out, number one, is where does this tile start on the wall? Basically, where does one of these X lines come across the floor? And I'm just going to randomly select this point right there. And we're going to connect on to the left vanishing point and draw only on the floor the trajectory of that line. Notice how I'm not drawing any of these lines to the edge of the paper. Now on this side, let's select another spot, maybe about right here. And this is going to connect onto the left side. You just have to decide intuitively where this first tile is going to be. So here's my first tile. Once I've got one of these, I can start using the diagonal to connect to the horizontal axis that we're calling the horizon line, and I can create a diagonal vanishing point. So between this point right here, which is one corner of my tile, and this point, which is an opposite corner, if I connect those lines, or those points, I can create that diagonal line that crosses my vanishing point and creates my diagonal vanishing point. And I'm going to draw that line all the way down the floor very lightly, right there. So here's my diagonal vanishing point, and here's a line for reference on that. And we'd erase this stuff later on. So here we go. What we're going to look at now is where are my next points going to be expanding out to work for this expanding perspective, or if we want to call it diminishing perspective, on both sides here. Since we already have this one tile and it's created our diagonal vanishing point connecting these two corners, we can take any of these other corners to figure out where the cross lines are going to be to create our next connections to diagonal vanishing, or to our Z and X vanishing points. So I'm going to choose this point here, connect to my diagonal vanishing point, and as I draw that down, you're going to see that it crosses over my tile track there, right here. Where that crosses, we have a new point to connect to my Z-axis vanishing point over here on the right. Like that. So, oh, I didn't get it all there. I need to connect it all the way to there. There we go. there's my next tile right there. Well, created a new point here, and I can connect that to my diagonal vanishing point here. Draw that down very lightly. It crosses my track here, giving me a new point to connect on over here. Do my right or Z vanishing point. That'll give me my next line of tile on the floor, which when I draw that, it gives me a new point here to connect to my diagonal vanishing point, which I will do presently. As I connect here and draw down across the tile, I have a new point to draw to my Z vanishing point and down the floor. As I do that, then of course I create a new point here, which connects to my diagonal vanishing point. It comes down across the floor, crosses again right here, which then I connect to my Z vanishing point down. And of course then we have a new point on the wall, the floor wall meeting joint to connect to the vanishing point, diagonal vanishing point there. And then it crosses over the tile here. And we can connect that to our right side vanishing point about as far as we're going to draw over to the right here. We don't need to draw any further. It's almost a vertical line. And so we have the tile sweeping this way. We do the same thing for this side using the point where this line crosses over. So there's one right here. We could actually use it all the way down. I'm going to sharpen my pencil really quick. Might edit that part out, but I need a sharper pencil. So here we go. Okay, so here's our point. There's our vanishing point. This is where the diagonal line crosses over the tile. Connect to the wall, and draw it out. You're going to notice that it crosses all of these diagonals as well. So we can actually just keep taking the diagonals and cross them all the way down, just as long as we're connecting to the vanishing point on the left side. Oops, kind of lifted my ruler when I did that. I need to kind of straighten that line again. It slipped just a little bit, so I can clean that up later. Here's my next cross right here. All the way down. And I've run out of those diagonals to figure out where the next one's going to be, but it's easy enough to simply take this point right here, connected to the diagonal vanishing point, draw it down the floor. Well, and that's what we got there. So now we're going to take, how about we take this one, draw it down. And here we have our next one. Really kind of far out. It's getting really distorted the further we get away or get it towards the edge of the paper. So here we go, like that. And there you have the floor sweeping that way. Let me get an eraser and I'll erase those diagonal lines. If I have one. I don't use erasers very often. Let's see if I got one in my tackle box here. Oh, not quite the kind I like, but we'll use it anyway. I'm going to take all those diagonals out. No need to keep them in. Need to labor over it. Clean up the lines later if we need to. Okay, so I've satisfied the requirement to demonstrate that I understand diminishing perspective, and I've also satisfied the requirement to do some sort of perspective something on the floor. So I've checked off two of the major requirements of the drawing. I'm going to darken those lines later. We may still do something else on the floor. We got to do something on the right wall, we got to do something on the left wall, we got to do something on the ceiling. How about we put a doorway and then a window? So let's put a door about right here. Maybe we'll do like double doors, not to be confused with double doors. Yeah, these are the jokes. So let's put that door maybe 13 inches away from the corner or from the left side of the page. A tick mark there at the top, and we'll line up those reference points. This door goes all the way from the floor, but not quite to the ceiling. All right, so we already have a Y line here. At the bottom, it connects to Z. We needed to make sure that it connects to Z on the top and out. So that's the point that I'm looking at and examining. So we connect to the vanishing point on the right. We're going to create a Z line on the wall. I don't know exactly how long that needs to be, and I'm just kind of thinking maybe French doors would be about that wide. So let's pick a point here, maybe right there, and measure over. That's right about just over 10 inches from the left side of the page. We'll put just over 10 inches here to make sure we get a good parallel vertical line. All Y lines remain vertical, parallel to the sides of the paper. All right, maybe you don't need this anymore, at least not for now. So here's the basic doorway. We have Y, Y, and Z. We have no X, and if the doorway is dimensional at all, we're going to need to have X. So let's go ahead and give it some dimension down here at the bottom. So at this point, we connect on to our X vanishing point. We just draw a little bit to create a thickness there. And then this point now connects only to X. We need to have a Y. And so let's go ahead and measure over from the left. It comes out to 12 5/8 of an inch right there. So we'll do another mark, 12 5/8 of an inch right here. And we'll draw that up, not till it hits the ceiling, right, or the top of the door frame, because we want to make sure that we can see the underside of that door frame. Our horizon line, our eye level, is below it, so we're going to see that surface, and it comes off of this point right here. Does it go there, or does it go here? Well, already going here, so it doesn't make sense to do another one there. So let's see if we can go to our X vanishing point right here, just briefly, and that is where we have our, right now it's a two-way intersection going to X and Z, or sorry, Y and X. This point, if connected to Z, will create a three-way intersection right here, and it will give us the bottom surface of that door frame, just like that. Perfect. Well, and that opens up the whole space there. I don't know what's back there, but we might have to solve that a little bit later. Sometimes I like to hop around and figure things out. So let's put some windows over here, perhaps. And let's say that those windows go all the way up to the same height as this door frame. How do we know where that height is reflecting this height? We can connect back to the vanishing point and draw lightly. The top of the door frame comes down, it comes to this point on that corner, and as it turns the corner, we switch vanishing points from Z to X, draw that lightly here, And maybe I want to have that big window, maybe a big picture window. So that's the top of the window there. Let's come to about right here for the far side of that window. That's going to be 15.5 inches away from the left side of the paper. 15.5 inches at the top for our reference line. Of course, this isn't a doorway, so we're not going to go all the way to the floor. Let's just go below horizon line there. And then we'll connect again to the X vanishing point for the bottom of the door frame. Draw that out like this. Let's see how far we want to go with that. Let's just call it 19 inches, just for ease of measuring before we bring up our next Y line. That's 19 inches from the left of the paper. And we'll draw our Y line up to finish that, the basic part of that window frame. Do a little bit of erasure here, like this. Okay, so let's say we have, well, we're going to have to sharpen my pencil again. This is a 3B, it's fairly soft. I think it's dull very easily. But you always want to keep a sharp pencil when making perspective drawings. All right, so the windowsill is below the horizon line. The top of the window frame is above the horizon line. We're going to see the inside of the window here. We're going to see the top of the windowsill and the bottom of the window frame, that bottom surface, just like we do in the doorway over here. How do we know how thick it is? We're not going to worry about trying to get that exactly right. I think I'm going to just estimate the thickness of the wall based on what I'm looking at. So we're going to come from this corner here and this corner here to connect to the right vanishing point, or the Z side. And then we're going to make a vertical line or a Y line and measure over, say, about 15 7/8 of an inch. We'll connect that line on there. Looks about right. Now we have a Y and a Z, a Y and a Z, but no connection to X. So we'll fix that as well. And there we have the underside of the window frame. And this will give us a very sharp window sill right here, so that there's a level there. So there's our window frame. And we're just going to give it some shape beyond that, maybe actually some window panes. So maybe if we had this divided in half, it'll be, in fact, we'll use a very light pencil for this division. Like that. You probably can't even see this on the video, but I'm connecting the diagonals across. That gives me my midpoint. And how far is that midpoint from the left side of my paper? Just between 17 and 17 1/8. Make the same mark up here. And this will divide the window down the middle, like that. I'm keeping it pretty simple. So what if we had a corner right here, just to make this more interesting? Let's draw a corner. Give ourselves an outside corner. That's going to be at 5.5 on the left side. Maybe there's a hall. Just to turn in the room there. Now we come to 3 3/4, just to make things more interesting. Kind of a bland wall back there. Yeah, so maybe there's something back here. I don't know what it is. We'll continue our tile into that room. Like that. And this tile would go there too. Let's see. We'll figure that out in a minute as well. We really don't need to draw anything beyond the left side of the vanishing point here, so I'm going to erase a lot of this stuff. Okay. And maybe, in fact, maybe this line will show up again behind the doorway here. There'll be a room back there too. And another corner in the back. That's at 10.5, maybe just a little bit less than 10.5. Keep losing that pencil. Of course, this wall would continue in that room back there too, like that. So we'd see that ceiling in that back room as well. Maybe that's an art gallery back there. Let's continue to tile into that room. And we can look at our diagonal vanishing point here. Comes across there. We can continue that line to the right side vanishing point. To the diagonal vanishing point. To the right side. To the diagonal vanishing point. Across the back wall. Connect that to the right vanishing point. Maybe one more. Yeah, something like that. All I really have left is the ceiling, and then just to sharpen my lines and erase some things that don't matter. And what are we going to do on the ceiling? how about we have a track of lights, and we're going to have that lighting track coming like this. This will be very simple. So we're just going to decide that there's a track here and right there, meeting the ceiling and the wall. Connect to the left vanishing point, draw it up here and here. Lighting track. And we'll put some lights in, and these will be just like fluorescent lights. Let's start the first light right here. And maybe these will be like tiles with lights like we have in the art building. So this is our first tile right here. We have diagonals that we can connect on to the horizon line. Do a new diagonal vanishing point right here. We have several of them, so I'm just going to designate that one with another cross line. Connecting these 2 points down. Now let's go to that point and connect up and cross this line. Right there, that gives us our new point to connect to the right vanishing point. There, now we have a new point to connect down to our diagonal. And then across the tile, ceiling tile, right there. And we connect to the vanishing point over here. Like that. Take that point to the diagonal vanishing point. Up, and it starts to distort quite a bit, always does in 2-point perspective. And there we go. So how about we make this into 2 skylights? So skylights can always have a bit of dimension to it. So here we go. We're going to figure out how far this point is away from the left side. Looks like it's 17.25. Well, we space that down to the bottom this time rather than the top to spread those reference points out. Here we are. Skylight. That's the top edge of the skylight. We're going to connect to the vanishing point here on the right side. You can always figure this out with X, Y, Z. And here on the left side, there's a skylight there. We have the skylight coming down here as well, like that. We're going to come up from that point on a Y line. This is 13 1/8 from the left side, 13 1/8. How far do you draw it? Just till it crosses over, and we connect on here, and there's the rest of our skylight on that side. So you would be able to see glass here and here, and that would be letting light into the room. Maybe what we can do is erase some of these lines that created the track. Just to give us the sense that those skylights are in the ceiling. There we go. Skylights, a room. The ceiling, windows, doorway. Take out my horizon line now. Got plenty of proof that I understand diminishing perspective. And how 2-point perspective works. Let's sharpen the lines up a little bit. Make them bold so we can actually see this drawing. Sharpen my pencil again. And just continue to clean it up. We're not going to make those too dark back there simply because they're kind of far back there. Give it this further sense of space. We'll make this window a little darker. And on the front, leave the back lines lighter. Very simple 2-point perspective model just to practice how things work. And the next drawing we're going to do is based on observation, applying these rules to and principles to an observed space and not using a ruler. So it'll be a little more complex. All right. And that's the finished. Oh no, we got to do the tile. Can't forget that. Okay. Finished 2-point perspective model. And you can go ahead and draw yours and send it to me in an email.